Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Chasing Trees podcast with Charlie and Justin. We are on episode 133, and this officially marks the beginning of summer for me.
Yes.
Because no more school. I don't know what actually marks the summer dates and the winter dates and the fall dates. I always get confused on those things, but at least school's out.
I don't even like knowing. I don't think I ever want to know ahead of time when that official date is.
Well, I think it always seems like it's later than it should be. Because, like winter, for example,
Right.
we'll have snow for months, and then I hear somebody say it's the first official day of winter.
Right.
But it feels like it was winter 2 months prior. So.
No, I get it. That's what I mean. I don't, well, I guess for summer and for fall or spring, really, I don't like knowing the date.
No.
Because it's like, oh, I thought we were halfway through it already.
Well, and plus, like, summer is a unique time for me because it kind of marks, like, it's essentially the second New Year's resolution time for me.
Yeah.
Just because I have more free time. And I think that most people are probably like that to a degree, where summer marks a change because of multiple reasons. Not necessarily that people have more time like me, but they're able to get outside and do more.
Longer days.
Yeah. That's a good point. Longer days because of more sunlight. So I think that people enter this mentality where it affords them the chance to do things that they haven't done before. Mm-hmm. So whether it's by longer days or more free time like myself, or just the fact that it's nice out so they can do things outside,
right,
which they put off for a while, or at least in the northeastern part of the United States where seasonally we get a lot of snow and we don't have nice weather until now. So around here, summer marks, like I said, it's essentially a second New Year's resolution time for people so they can get things done and do things that they put off for a while, which is really, really beneficial just because it kind of reinvigorates you. Like for us, New Year's resolution-wise, it's not going to change our goals or anything that has no impact on us. But for me, there are things now that I'm going to be a little bit more mindful of and say, okay, these are things that I need to get done and things that I want to get done.
No, I agree. I can understand the whole longer days so I can do more stuff outside or I can get more stuff accomplished or that feeling. But I guess I don't understand fully because just because the sun's down doesn't mean you can still be getting stuff done.
Yeah.
And I've done the same thing. I've always done that. Like over the years anyways, in the past where winter and, fall when it's dark at it seems like it's dark at 7 o'clock in the evening, 6 o'clock in the evening. As soon as the sun goes down, you start to become less productive, like mentally, physically. Not like you can't do more, but like you just don't.
I think for me, and I can't speak for everyone, I can only speak for myself, but for me, I feel like my circadian rhythm is really well regulated. Mm-hmm. So I think that at that point it becomes almost like a physiological thing where my body's used to having rest when it's dark out and your body starts producing melatonin, and it's almost difficult for me to fight that.
Yeah.
Just because I work very, very hard to get it to that point where when it's dark, it's time for bed. When it's light, it's time to wake up. And you work so hard to have your body function and be regulated the way that it was supposed to, physiologically speaking. And so I think that for me, in the evenings, not the afternoons, but in the evenings when it gets dark out, that just signals like bedtime. So I'm just like programmed to feel sleepy at that point.
Yeah. So, and it's, if you like, I think that's one of the things that is odd how our bodies work to me, because in the winter, I sleep the same amount of time all year round from the same hours. So it doesn't matter if it's daylight or dark out. When I go to bed, I go to bed. So how does my body understand that it's okay to sleep when the sun's up? I don't typically, but if I need to be going to bed at 8 o'clock, for example, the sun's still up in Ohio.
Yeah.
So how is my body okay with going to bed at 8 o'clock now, but in the wintertime I'm like ready for bed at 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 5. You know what I mean? When it's dark. How does that circadian? Do you know how that works?
Well, it's biologically against what we're programmed for, but I think the one thing is the main goal of the body is stress relief. So in repair is in terms of sleep patterns.
Yeah.
So when you go to sleep, your body's meant to repair and be in the rest and digest parasympathetic state. So I think that one of the things that it's constantly doing is trying to shut down in times of high stress. So I think that there are times that, it's not like the sun being out is going to completely override your need for sleep.
Right.
So it's going to put you down when it needs to put you down. But one thing I think about along those lines is maybe because you are screwed up a little bit in terms of like your sleep wake cycle with the sunlight, maybe that's something that contributes to like seasonal affective, or is it SAD, seasonal affective disorder?
I think so.
Where it's like people enter with like what's called, or what people refer to as like seasonal depression.
Yeah.
Where mentally they feel off and they don't feel as good during the winter months, at least in, again, Northeast Ohio, because there's a lot of darkness during those times. So maybe that plays a role there. But it's interesting how people, and we've said this before from different perspectives, how human biology is kind of like overridden by societal needs.
Mm-hmm.
So like what we deem necessary as humans, we get further and further away from what biologically and physiologically our bodies were meant to do. Like I started watching, and I'm very, very early into it, so I can't give any insights onto how it is going, or how well done it is. But recently stumbled across a documentary on grounding and being barefoot in nature, and early on, they pinpointed synthetic rubber soles as being one of the worst inventions in human history because of that. Just getting in touch with the ground and being negatively charged. And then, of course, you add the anatomical perspective of how shoes are basically bad for your feet. Most shoes are bad for your feet. So it just seems like we're getting further and further away from human function. And nature, like our bodies are supposed to. But point still stands, like we originally started talking about, is summer gives you more hours. So I think that people just seem more productive. And then again, the second part of that is the fact that the weather's nice here during those months, so people can get outside and do things. Like for me, I did 11 hours worth of yard work in 2 days.
Nice.
So things that, not that I put off like conscientiously, or that I wanted to put, or just like, neglected, I guess would be the right term. It's not things that I neglected to do. It's things that I literally could not do because there was snow on the ground or whatever, or the weather was too cold. So I did a ton of yard work. I was raking and mowing my lawn, and put new mulch in and trimmed bushes. Had a small tree removed from some of the landscaping in the front yard. So did a lot. Even got into my fire pit and burned a ton of like old boxes that were stored in the basement over the winter months. So feeling productive and getting things done was awesome. And that kind of, again, like I alluded to earlier, that kind of sparked a little bit of almost like that newfound invigoration or passion for getting a lot done.
Yeah.
So mentally, I kind of entered this New Year's resolution round 2 type deal,
yeah.
Which I do that every summer. Again, being a teacher, when you have summers off, you have the ability to go do more, which is one of the reasons why teaching has been good for me, because it allowed me to like expand my paradigm a little bit. And I'm not just stuck in a classroom year round. I have the opportunity to do more and be out more, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing I it's not even the weather that I love the most about the summer. Or the fall, because you still got longer days in the fall too. Not as long, but the longer days, because the sun is up, and I know it's kind of a contradicts what I said earlier, but I can stay outside and get that much more accomplished. So I can still work a 12, 14-hour day at work and come home and put 4 hours outside, and it's still, just getting evening.
And I think that's biology at work too.
Yeah.
Like we were mentioning, where your body doesn't necessarily sense that it's time for sleep yet when it's 8 o'clock in the evening.
Right.
And there's still sunlight.
Yeah. It's like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
I could understand why, old school farmers set their body to the sun.
Yeah.
They set their clock to the sun. They don't have an alarm clock. They just get up when it's up, when the sun's up, and they go down when the sun's down.
Well, in an ideal world, that's how we all would be able to function. But again, that's just one of those instances where societal needs override biology and human design, where we are busy. We all have jobs. We all have things that we need to do. So unfortunately, we can't just get up when the sun comes up or when our bodies tell us that it's ready.
Right.
Like in an ideal scenario, you would go to sleep when your body tells you to sleep, and you would wake up when your body tells you to wake up.
No, I agree. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And most of the time, people, I'm sure there's people listening that would think that all they would do is sleep, and that would, I think that problem would start to slowly mitigate itself over time because you would need less and less sleep. It's almost like your body plays catch up. At least mine does.
Yeah.
So I know for a fact that the more I sleep, the better I feel, obviously. And my body like has that period of catch up time where if I haven't slept a lot for a couple days, I need like one hefty day of catch up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like a binge and purge scenario like eating where it's very dangerous or anything like that in terms of a bad habit getting into is like, oh, well, I can just sleep less for a couple days and on the weekend I'll just sleep all day and catch up.
Right.
It's not necessarily a perfect exchange like that. Ideally, you need that recovery mechanism and that sleep regularly. So a high frequency as in every night.
Yeah.
But when you're pressed, you can I feel personally like I can function when I quote catch back up on it, so to speak.
No, I understand. I cannot do the whole sleep, extra.
Yeah.
When it's time to wake up, my body's up.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, once in a while you'll hear me talk about maybe I slept in, but it's only I didn't get up at 4, I got up at 5.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Or I didn't get up at 3, I got up at 5.
I had that happen to me just the other day, coincidentally enough, where I was set to meet someone at the gym at, I think, 4:30, and I had woken up. Well, I forgot to set my alarm, which is very abnormal. I don't think I forget to set my alarm because the last thing I think about before bed is getting up in the morning.
Yeah, the first thing you do in the morning.
Yeah, and I always set it. Well, for some reason, I had told myself I was going to set it, and I even grabbed my phone specifically as I was lying down to set my alarm, had a text message, answered the text message, got off track, and then never set my alarm. Fell asleep, and anyway, I woke up about 4 minutes after when my alarm would have been set for. And that was one of those instances, like you just mentioned, where I wasn't going to bed at a normal time. Yeah. I was actually significantly later to bed than I normally would be, which kind of just strengthens your point even more. That even in terms of needing sleep for some people, your body's going to get up when it's used to.
Yeah, it's got a schedule.
Yeah,
if you follow a schedule, your body will follow a schedule, whether you want it to or not. Like when we go on vacation, my wife will sleep until noon if I let her. Not now so much with the baby. She's not going to allow us to sleep at all. But she would sleep till 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and it's like for me personally, in that scenario, I want to be on the beach before the sun's all the way up.
Yeah,
because I want to enjoy it. I want to get that sun, get all that vitamin D as much as I can because that's what I'm there for.
Yeah, you're there to enjoy the experience, not to sleep in bed. If you wanted to sleep in bed, you
I'd stay in Ohio. Yeah. I could just sleep in my bed in Ohio instead of a hotel bed in Myrtle Beach. But yeah, even on vacation or anywhere I go, like, I guess I can't I probably couldn't set the clock to my sleep patterns to be exact, like to the minute, but there's like an hour window.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't matter what time I went to bed. If it was midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, at 4 to 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm up. Mm-hmm. No matter what. Like it's just and I think it's just because of years of that was wake up time. I started work at 5 o'clock for 10 years. So
yeah, that was even pre fitness journey.
Yeah.
Waking up early wasn't something that you did just because.
Right.
Because I think that a lot of people associate those two, like, or not just with fitness, but with successful people. Oh, successful people get up early. That's one of the things you hear, the cliche thrown around a lot. But that was kind of your lifestyle even before you got involved in fitness at all.
No, yeah, absolutely. But I think it's true. I can't remember who I heard that said that. I think it was Steve Harvey says, and you hear it a lot, like on the Goalcast podcast and stuff. He talks about it, or they have talked about him talking about it. Steve Harvey says, "What is it? If you sleep 8 hours a day, that's a third of your life that you're sleeping. Rich people don't sleep 8 hours a day. Successful people don't sleep 8 hours a day. There's no way. Like, if you live in Ohio or you live on the West Coast and you sleep 8 hours and don't get up until 8 o'clock in the morning, you're not. The stock market's been open for 5 hours. 3 hours by the time you get up, and that makes sense. Like, you got to get a jump start on the day. Like, not saying that sleep's not important, but I don't know how anybody can sleep their life away. Like, I guess that's my point. Like, I am thoroughly upset the days that I do sleep in, like where I had, like you said, had to backlog and make up, and it's frequent. It's more frequent than I would like. If I start burning the candle from both ends and I'm training hard in the morning and working all day and then working in the garden at night and only getting a couple hours of sleep literally a week, I sometimes it happens and I'll sleep till 8 or 9 o'clock, but then I'm irritated because I've wasted that much time of that day. So now I'm just gonna perpetuate that cycle again.
Well, I think that's one reason why I'm okay, me personally, with sleeping in the 8-hour window that I rarely get. Unfortunately, I hate to admit that, but there's things and habits that I do that are less than ideal, and I know that, and I'm trying to continuously find ways to make them better. But we'll talk about the sleep just because it's something that's pertinent to this discussion. So I'm okay with sleeping 8 hours and losing a third of my life, but the reason is because I know that the other 16 hours of the day are going to be utmost quality.
Going hard.
Versus if I sleep 4, okay, yeah, essentially I'm allotting more time to my day, but the time that I'm having is not as effective. I don't have as much energy. I'm not accomplishing as much. I'm not moving as fast. So I feel like for me personally, there's a little bit of a trade-off there just because I know how I am. And I know that if I'm tired, and I think that part of that stems from the mentality of all in, all out type deal. So like if I'm tired, it's very difficult for me to do anything to the quality or to the standard that I want to do it. And I just know that that's how I am. Like there's actually been times where, and I've been adamant about being upfront and forthright with people with it, but there's been times, and it's rare, but times where I'll actually cancel some of my trainings because my energy levels aren't where they need to be. Now, again, that happens very, very rarely, but I don't want to ever give anybody a lower quality product than what their expectations are just because I'm tired. And I know that if I'm tired, the output isn't there. It's like, we talk about this a lot, like the argument of like a good workout and a bad workout. And they say the bad workout's the only or a bad workout's better than no workout, where you and I have been pretty vocal about disagreeing with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because sometimes a bad workout just sets you further and deeper into the recovery hole. Mm-hmm. So for me, I enjoy, I mean, I know that everybody does to a degree, but I enjoy sleeping a little bit more just because it makes the quality of my wake time more efficient and effective for me personally.
No, I agree with that. I mean, yeah, I agree.
So we mentioned too about summertime being a little bit of a reinvigoration of New Year's resolutions, or even finding new ones, just again, like we mentioned, because the opportunity to do more is there. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit about this new, not new mentality, but my approach to the summer, because I think that I can kind of generalize it and make a very vague goal, an umbrella goal that everything falls under. So let's go to a commercial break, and we'll talk more about that when we come back.
As listeners of the Chasing Dreams podcast, we know that you demand the highest quality at all times. If you're interested in quality, look no further than Beast Mode Baking. Beast Mode Baking aims to bring the highest quality, creative, and of course delicious baked goods to your home with nationwide shipping. All orders need to be pre-ordered to ensure they're packed fresh and shipped out to you as soon as possible. Beast Mode Baking offers a flat rate of $15 for shipping due to the size and weight of the cookies and doughs. So if you're interested in Beast Mode Baking, please contact CEO Shannon Knorr That's at SKNORR13 on Instagram and order your delicious baked goods today, because every time you support them, you're supporting the podcast as well.
And we are back from our commercial break. All right, prior to the break, Justin, we mentioned that summertime for a lot of people kind of associates with a period of time where they can either start new goals or find a little bit of a spark for their New Year's resolutions, just because it's more opportunistic for people to accomplish things during the summer, even if they don't have a job like mine, where, because some people are busy during the summer, busier. Whereas me, I get less busy in terms of where my time is allocated because I'm a teacher, so I don't have to be at school. But one of the things I was thinking about doing this summer, because I always try to make things that can be generalized. So if I have a goal that's specific, it's awesome because it's very, very narrow. It's kind of like aim small, miss small. If I know exactly what the goal is, the chance of me hitting it are pretty high because I can have a high degree of specificity with my goal. Therefore, I can have a high degree of specificity with my approach to the goal. But a lot of times I try to make goals that are pretty broad because that can encompass more than one thing. So we've talked about it before on different episodes, how it seems like people that are successful in different avenues.
Yes.
Like very rarely do you have someone that's so good at something and then awful at everything else because of that zoned mentality, that myopic focus on that one thing.
Because that good almost always spreads to everything.
Yeah, good habits that you have in the gym, you're going to take those good habits and you're most likely going to have them at work or with your family or whatever.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I've been thinking about lately is living up to the standard of reputation for me. So there's been a couple of things that have happened to me lately, and I think it's just kind of coincidental that they've, not necessarily coincidental because I feel like they happen frequently, but I'm just a little bit more self-aware of them and in tune with them happening. So like that kind of like hits me. Like if someone has a certain trait or habit that you've never noticed and someone else points out, hey, did you notice that this guy does this all the time? And then you recognize it, and then that's all you see because you're self-aware. So I'm becoming increasingly like self-aware of this one thing, and it's that people kind of group you or associate you with a certain thing, and then they get this opinion of you that that's all that you do. So for example, me as someone who promotes health and wellness and physical well-being, people assume that there's this standard that I live by where I am at the pinnacle of health and wellness all the time, no matter what. Like there's no setbacks. So for me, I was at a graduation party the other day, last weekend, and I was really, really thirsty for some pop or some soda. Like that's just what I wanted for some reason. And me being a person of limited self-control at certain times, I had like 3 of them, which is very rare that I ever have
Forrest
3
Gump.
pops. Yeah. So exactly. So for me, that was a rarity that I had 3 pops. And it was amazing the number of people that actually commented on it. Said, even with my first one, people saw me with a pop in my hand. They're like, I didn't know you drink pop. Are you allowed to drink pop? You know, like we've talked about people saying that sort of stuff before. And then it made me realize that people hold me to a high standard when it comes to that sort of thing. And it's kind of like the podcast where when you're in a position of helping people or explaining to people what to do, you better live those words as well.
Yeah, you need to walk the walk.
So what I've decided to do is make a summertime a period of extreme accountability for me, even more so than I already try to live by, especially in terms of what people pay me for. So people pay me to train them as a personal trainer. So what I need to do is I feel a professional obligation and a moral and ethical obligation to make sure that all my workouts are as close to perfect as possible. It's not realistic that I'll have all perfect workouts, but I'm trying to make my workouts as realistic as realistic. I'm trying to be realistic in the sense that knowing they won't be perfect, but I'm trying to make all my workouts as perfect as possible because I feel like that gives me credibility in the eyes of people that are paying me for that advice.
Yeah.
Same thing with nutrition. Like there are times when I make less than savvy nutritional choices because I can get away with it. And I'm not the type of person now that feels comfortable doing things and being able to get away with them. Like I don't want to drink a pop and say, oh, it's okay because I'm still lean. Like If that's not perfect to put in my body, then why would I do it? So it's almost like taking that perfectionist mentality and allocating it towards everything that I do this summer. So, for example, I did yard work, and I told you I spent like 11 hours over the course of 2 days completing some things, and I'm taking on the mentality of I want it to be perfect. Like almost like, no, that's not good enough, isn't good enough.
Right.
And good enough shouldn't be good enough for you. It shouldn't be good enough for me. We should all hold ourselves to a high standard. So for me, this summer marks the period of time where I'm going to kind of take on a different mentality and make sure that I'm walking the walk too. So that's kind of mentally where I'm at going into those things. Because like I said, the New Year's resolutions that you and I set together on the podcast, they're not going to be affected by seasonal changes.
No. We just, we set achievable goals.
Yeah.
But they were going to take work.
Yeah, lofty but achievable.
Yeah, that's the word, lofty. I couldn't think of the word lofty.
Now, one of the downsides to me setting this goal is that it's not measurable. There's not ways to, in terms of how close am I to being perfect.
Well, I think you have to skew your viewpoint on measurable, right? What does your logbook look like versus what does the changes in your clients' logbooks look like?
Yeah.
So as your logbook changes increase because of the perfection, right? If you're doing it right, if you're achieving the goal that you're setting forth for yourself, their logbook should be increasing at about the same rate, right? Because maybe not the same rate, but at least at a controlled rate where it's about the same progress consistently.
Yeah.
And if that's happening across the board with all of your clients, then you're doing it. I mean, that's one way to look at it, I think.
I always take on the mentality of what my dad always said, and I've said it before probably a million times, and I tell people this all the time. My favorite dad quotes, my dad has a lot of like dadisms.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of sayings that he's used over the years in cliche form that go in one ear and out the other. But the one that he said all the time that has stuck with me for an eternity, and I think about this literally daily.
Yeah.
If something's worth doing, it's worth doing right.
I agree.
And I am the type of person where there's downsides to that too, man. Like I think I brought this up before, but I got engulfed one time in Candy Crush, where I thought that like I got it on my phone as like a little like, okay, I'm waiting on a client.
Yeah, so just
I'm just gonna just play Candy Crush for 5-10 minute increments. Well, then other people I know asked me what level I was on, and then once you ask me that, then it's on.
It's on.
Because now I got to be the best. And then I became obsessive over it. Not because I enjoyed the game, but because I wanted to get better at the game and be able to tell people what level I was on and I was higher than them. So it was like a competitive mentality.
Oh, yeah.
So now, like, it sounds so silly, but if I was going to play Candy Crush, I wanted to be the best Candy Crush player in the world, or at least that I knew.
Right.
And people think, when you tell them that at surface value, that's an awesome trait and an awesome quality to have. But the problem is a lot of times I can't turn it off, and it's not always a good thing.
Right.
When it's good, it's good, and when it's bad, it's bad.
No, I get it. I do.
So I need to be able to, as much as I say that I want to focus on being the best at everything I do and doing it right, there are times where I guess what I need to do is just stop eliminating things that aren't worth doing then.
Yeah.
Therein lies the second part of that message. If something's worth doing, it's worth doing right. And if it's not worth doing right, then it's not worth doing at all. And I just need to completely eliminate it. So one thing that I did a while back was eliminate Candy Crush from my phone. I deleted it because then I thought, well, what could I be doing? I could be putting together an Instagram post to gain more followers and gain more traction there. I could be responding to client emails. So I'm expediting the fashion at which I communicate back with them, which is better customer service to give them more value for the product they're paying for. So there's just ways that I can navigate around that and just eliminate the things that aren't worth doing. But ultimately, like I was saying earlier, the main premise of me going on this monologue here is just to tell you that I think this summer I'm going to try to live to a higher, or I'm not going to try, I'm going to live to a higher standard by the reputation that I have. And I think that I'm thankful for that reputation. And I think that people, because when you have that reputation, you automatically have built-in accountability partners in the form of literally everybody.
Yeah, your clients, your friends, your family, your coworkers, everybody.
Like even my mom, she's so respectful of things because my mom and dad are very health conscientious, and I don't want to say they're fitness freaks, but for people in their 60s, they're extremely, extremely cognizant and self-aware of their goals in the health and wellness world. And they both exercise regularly. My mom eats like maniacally healthy. And they're really respective of my type of situation because anytime my mom, like if I'm home for, a day or two, my mom will even talk about meals.
Right.
Like my mom will say, okay, well, I'll make sure I have chicken prepared or this or that or whatever. So they're very, very good at making sure that I have what I need and that, they're, again, accountability partners.
Yeah, that's huge. When you have those people that respect that too.
Yeah.
I had a thought process, a chain of thought there and it just completely vanished.
When you talk about, just to, hopefully it comes back to you, but to continue in that same vein, that's part of the reason why it's so important, we've talked about before, to surround yourself with people that are like-minded.
Right.
Because those accountability partners are very, very easy to come by when you're at the gym, because most people are goal-oriented, especially with their nutrition, so they're going to help you make healthy nutrition choices.
Yeah, most people in that setting are there for the same reason. It's just a different version.
Yeah.
They're just on a different chapter.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Their nutrition may look different than yours, but most of them are trying to self-improve.
Right.
Most of them have self-image issues, whether they are cognizant of it or whether it's subconscious or whether they admit it openly and freely or they don't want to admit it, but they know that it's there.
I think this is not what I wanted to say earlier, but this is something new that I just thought of is I think everybody has a self-image issue.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's entirely complacent with how they look.
No. I mean, I tend to disagree with that. I think too many of us are complacent with the way we look. But I think everybody can look in the mirror and say, oh, something.
Well, I would argue that and say that they're not complacent, but their laziness overrides the self-image issues. Because if people can look in the mirror and not be completely satisfied with the product, then that shows that they're not complacent.
Okay.
I don't think that non-action equals complacency. I think that non-action means that they are
poor choices.
And they are complacent in the fact that just overrides the amount of work. Like, their laziness is the only thing that supersedes their wanting to change. Yeah. So if I want, like, everybody would like to improve themselves to some degree, but the couch may be more fulfilling than going and studying an online course to get a degree in something that you would find beneficial or interesting or whatever. So I think that the choices just lead back down an unfortunate road for some people.
Yep, I agree.
So I can see what you're saying about the complacency thing, where their actions kind of show that they're complacent.
Yeah.
But I think that sometimes people mentally struggle with that.
No, I agree. I think so. I didn't think of it from that light. Like, I was just thinking along the lines of, we get comfortable.
Yes.
And, idle wheels, idle minds.
Maybe that's worth a discussion. Like, is complacency versus comfort. Like, if you're comfortable, that can manifest itself in action. Right? I'm comfortable, but I don't think that comfort and complacency can be the same thing, because I can mentally be comfortable or physically be comfortable lying on the couch, and maybe mentally I'm not complacent.
Right.
Like, I want to get up and do something, but gosh, it's just so comfortable here, I don't want to.
Right.
So you want it at the same time you don't want it, in a sense.
Yeah, no, I think I battle the comfort thing more than anybody I know, because of where I was to where I am. And even though where I am is nowhere near where I want to be, it's way far away from where I was.
I think that speaks to, like, credibility. Like, you have credibility to talk about the things you're experienced on. So I've often heard the argument that it's hard for someone to talk about weight loss if they've never been obese.
Yeah.
So you've been, very open about saying how you're not qualified sometimes to talk about certain subjects, but what more qualification do you need than having been the exact person that lost 200 some pounds over the course of a year? Not someone that's helped someone, but someone that actually
I've done the work,
did it yourself. That in the trenches experience, I think, is invaluable, which kind of allows you, it kind of like indoctrinates you to be able to speak on those things.
Fair. I agree. I mean, I have a hard time agreeing, but I understand what you mean, and I agree with it. When I start to actually think about it, like, I know what it takes, and I can do the work, but it's hard sometimes. It's hard because of the comfort versus complacency. I feel like we're going to go down a rabbit hole on this, but comfort versus complacency. I don't feel that I'm complacent at all. I'm very cognizant of the situation that I'm in at this exact moment.
Yep.
A lot of times it seems like I dedicate more time into my professional side.
Yep.
Than in my physical improvement at this point.
Same. That's something that I battled for a while.
Right.
For sure.
And I don't think that's a terrible thing, honestly.
No.
I mean, as long as growth is growth, right? As long as the whole train is moving forward, it doesn't matter how fast the motor is the caboose is still going to go the same speed.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know that was a good analogy, actually. Now that I said it, I don't think that was the right analogy. But
well, I think that it is, in the sense that you can think about it as your caboose, whatever is in the back, being your weakest link, and it's like a team. Like, your team's only as strong as your worst player.
Yes.
Or as good as your worst player. Like, your body's only as strong as its weakest link.
Right.
Well, if your weakest link is, going through periods of time where it's coming up, and then your strongest link is going through periods of time where it's coming up, I think that all the avenues you're invested in are improving, as long as there's not regression. Because I've gone through that myself where, maybe I wasn't making, there's been times where I've dictated a lot of my energy and time to professional development. And there's been periods of time where
lost progress,
and there's been periods of time where progress has been maintained.
Yeah.
And the time where progress has been maintained has always been mentally easier for me to digest.
Right. So I guess where I was going mainly with it was the complacency versus comfort is a really good conversation, and I think we don't have enough time to completely encapsulate or even really scratch the surface. But like, from my personal experience, 3 years ago, I would have never been able to rent like a blow up slide from a party rental store and use it.
Yeah.
I'd have been able to rent it because I worked hard enough and I had enough money that I could afford to do it for my family, but I was not able to use it. On Memorial Day, I rented one for the kids in my family, and I got to use it. So that means that I'm okay, and I kind of wish I wouldn't have been able to use it, because that would have sparked something in my mind saying, "Hey, there's no comfort here."
Yeah.
But because I was able to use it, I'm like, well, I must have done something right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and it's just a thought process that just because you've come this far doesn't mean you've come that far.
Yeah.
You got to play, you have to, when it comes to the weight loss world, for me, you can't listen to the people that say you've done a great job. You can't hear that. And I don't know how to turn it off.
I think that one of the beneficial things for me growing up playing sports and coaching sports and being involved in sports my whole life is taking on the mentality that nothing else matters at the time of competition. Like, it didn't matter how hard you worked during the summer when the first football game was ready to start. It's time. It doesn't matter how hard you worked during the summer because the other team worked hard too, and they don't care.
Yeah.
The other team doesn't care how much weightlifting you did, how much running you did, how good your nutrition was. They did the same thing, and they're going to try to beat you.
Yeah.
So I think that, like, the competitive, like, needing to, like, do the work at that moment kind of negates the fact of, like, looking in hindsight and patting yourself on the back for a productive summer of workouts when it's time to go.
Yeah.
So I think that has always helped me a little bit subconsciously be in the forward thinking and not necessarily looking in the rear view.
Yeah.
So I kind of avoided that a little bit, which has been helpful for me. Although from time to time I'm as guilty as anybody, I'm sure, at looking in the past and saying, "Oh, look what I did! I accomplished this."
Right. And I really wish, I could tear the proverbial rear view mirror off.
Yeah.
And not look at the past. Not have memories pop up on social media about what I did 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I could redo that all right now and have the same amount of progress that I had then. That's how my mind works. Like, yeah, you've come so far, but you haven't come that far. Like, you have a long way to go.
Certainly.
But I struggle with it because of the abilities part. Like, I'm able to do the things that... So, like, when I first lost weight, the first time, like, that initial 200 pounds, everything was new.
Yeah.
Tying my own freaking shoes was new.
Yep.
Walking from where we're parked to the front door of this building in front of us, which is not that far, was new. So now it's, nothing's new because it's just going to improve.
Yeah.
I'm not finding that new ground.
Yeah.
So I need to find some new ground. And I don't know what that new ground is. And I'm looking. I'm trying. I don't know what it is. Once I find it, everybody will know because that's all I'll talk about. And that's all I'm going to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I guess the comfort versus complacency, when you said that, it makes sense. And I like it because I often say I'm comfortable, but am I complacent? Am I okay with where I'm at right now? And I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the definition of complacency is like just getting into that mundane, that routine, and not seeing everything else go by, and you're not recognizing that time's passing, and things are changing around you, and you're not recognizing it because the normal is the normal.
Yeah, and I think that any successful person would probably tell you that there's a unique and healthy balance that one needs to have when approaching looking in the past, being in the present, and then looking in the future.
Yes.
All right, so with that, we have come to the end of another episode of the Chasing Dreams podcast with Charlie and Justin. This has been episode 133. As always, we appreciate your listenership, and we look forward to hearing back from you guys next week.
Unbreakable, unstoppable, I'm pushed to the